Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire an energy vampire. But also they're a literal vampire. And suddenly my team is spending all their time sharpening wooden stakes and buying bulk silver and rehearsing ancient chants, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant takes insights from over 1 billion professionals to create a short list of the best fits for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
New Year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Hello there, Stanley Carr here. You know, I love collecting music and sports memorabilia. Want to know where you can find some? I'll tell you. Go to oldglory.com. This website features one-of-a-kind apparel from your favorite sports teams and musical artists. And I can help you get 15% off of all items. Use the code WWH135. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He is a professional wrestler, author, filmmaker, and his life story has been chronicled in a novel and movie called The Masked Saint. I am pleased to welcome Chris Whaley. Welcome, Chris, to Wrestling with Heart.
Hey, man, it is so great to be with you, and I thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, talk to me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in Central Florida. My mom and dad were from South Alabama. My dad was a long-distance truck driver. He had a third-grade education. My mom actually grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and they moved from South Alabama to Central Florida, and they would go back, just about every weekend because they missed home. And so my mom was pregnant with me. And so I was born in Alabama because that's where they were, but then came right. So I'm a Floridian, but I grew up in a little town called Auburndale, Florida. Auburndale. It's close to Winter Haven, Lakeland, about 45 minutes from Tampa. And I was just a sickly kid, constantly in and out of the hospital, mostly with pneumonia. And then when I was in the 4th grade, I had polio, viral encephalitis. I was in the hospital for 3 months, had to learn to walk all over again. I had a great doctor. He was a godly man, and he was just so concerned why I continued to get sick so much. And so he sent me to a hospital in Lakeland, and they did a lot of tests on me, and they did the allergy test, and they found out that I was allergic to over 200 things. And so they started giving me the allergy shots. This doctor, he said, I got to get you going to the gym. And so he's the one that got me going to the gym, working out, and I loved it when I did it. I just loved it. And so the medication started working, and finally I started putting on weight. And before I knew it, my body had changed quite a bit. And then, when you're in the hospital back in those days, you get your days and your nights mixed up. And so I'm up late at night, and I would turn the TV on, and about the only thing I could get on TV was professional wrestling. And so I just became a huge fan of professional wrestling as a kid. And here in Florida, Florida was one of the biggest territories before Vince McMahon took over. Championship wrestling from Florida was huge. And so I watched, Eddie Graham and the Great Malenko. They had battles. Johnny Valentine. I saw, Dusty Rhodes, Jack Briscoe, Jerry Briscoe, and I just became a huge fan, never suspecting that I would ever get the opportunity to do that. But that came later. I went a little long there. Sorry.
No worries. The thing is with professional wrestling, it provides an escape for so many people.
Yeah.
Whether it's, they're going through a rough day or they just want to be entertained in general. And so, sick since childhood. I mean, that had to have not been a lot of fun at all. I mean, that's insane being able to, having to go to the doctor's office constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, it was a pain, but I loved that doctor. Matter of fact, in my book, I mentioned his name, and after the book came out, I tried to get in touch with. He had like 8 kids, I think, and most of them became doctors. And so I found one of his boys who was also a pediatrician in Winter Haven. And I contacted him and I told him that, I mentioned his dad in my book and how special his dad was, and actually drove over to Winter Haven, went to his office. He said, bring me 10 copies of the book. And so I took 10 copies of the book with me, and we had a great conversation about his dad and how special he was. So even though it was rough, that was one doctor who loved his patients, and he did everything he could to help me, and he did that. He helped me tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, he was a lifesaver.
Yep. Dr. Raymond LaRue, that was his name. He was a great guy.
Well, when you're watching professional wrestling and you're just mesmerized by these athletes,
yeah,
who are some people that you go, I really like their work, their style? And at what age did you go, I'd like to give this a shot?
Yeah. Well, the guys that I liked, I loved Jerry Briscoe. Jerry Briscoe was, one of the best. I also loved Dory Funk Jr. I actually became his pastor for a little while. When I was at my second church, he and his wife Marty were a part of that church. And, Dory Funk Jr. was just an unbelievable wrestler. In the more modern time, my favorite was who has since become really one of my best friends, and that is Mark Miro, Johnny B. Bad, the Wild Man, Mark Miro. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I did his wedding. He just got married.
Yeah.
But, Mark was the guy. He was the guy who started the high flying stuff. He would do the backward flip off of the top rope and do the pin. That started with Mark. I mean, nobody else was doing that, and that's what made him so unique. Now everybody's doing it, but he was the guy who started. So those guys were really the ones that influenced me. And of course, Dusty Rhodes. He was kind of a combination of Muhammad Ali and Moms Mapley. I mean, he was just unbelievable personality, and he changed wrestling a lot. He really did. So, what was your other question about how I got into wrestling?
At what age did you decide that you wanted to enter into the business?
Well, my wife and I graduated from college, and we moved back to Central Florida. I was looking for a church as a youth minister. I mean, I was 23 years old, so there's not a lot of churches that want a pastor that's 23 years old. So if you want to get experience, you have to do youth ministry. So I was working a full-time job, and I was putting out resumes, and I'd work my job and I'd go to the gym because my wife was a math teacher and she had papers to grade. So I was in incredible shape. And one day, my wife was grading papers, and I picked up the Tampa Tribune, and there was an ad in it that said "Wanted professional wrestlers." And I jumped to my feet when I saw it. I jumped to my feet and I took it over to my wife, who was grading papers, and I said, "Look at this." And my wife looked at it and she kind of rolled her eyes and went back to grading papers. And I said, "I'm going to do this." So I packed a bag. I drove over to Tampa. I walked in, and there was the great Malenko, and I was hooked on it from the moment that I walked in. I mean, I loved every minute of professional wrestling. Uh, the great Malenko trained a lot of great wrestlers. Matter of fact, he trained Mark Mero, and so he was just a great mentor. He's a great person. I got to work with his boys, Dean Malenko, the man of 1,000 holes. I got to work with him. I got to work with Joe Malenko, and it was just a big thrill.
What kinds of tips are you getting, pieces of advice from Boris Malenko at the time that you're starting to learn how to wrestle, that you're kind of going and taking away from your time and are able to recall back after your time in the business?
Well, he was great, but he demanded, from his students also. And it's like, when you're doing this, you give it everything you've got. There's no half-heartedness in doing this. And you have to convince, not only do you have to convince the people out there, you got to convince me. And so he was just, highly motivated, and he made you highly motivated to make sure that, every move you did, every hold that you got on someone, it had to look good. It had to be the way it was supposed to be. And there was no, oh, that'll do. There was none of that. It was like, no, 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 do it again, do it again, do it again. So, and I was very, very thankful for that.
Yeah, a lot of repetition. You have to really be able to master
Yeah.
certain maneuvers and holds before you're able to move on to the next one, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
you really have to know exactly what you're doing and kind of like master the techniques.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to do that. I got back into the ring back in 2022 at the age of 68.
68.
Which was incredible. I was in great shape. I'd been working, and I was in great shape. Had a friend of mine. Uh, he is the Golden Boy, Jimmy McDowell, and he said, "Hey, I'm doing a show down in South Florida, and I want to get you to come and bring your books and bring your DVDs, bring all your stuff, and I want to set a table up." And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to do that." And then he said, "How you doing?" I said, "Man," I said, "I am doing great. I'm in great shape." I said, "This is the best shape I've been in a long time." He said, "Are you good enough to get back in the ring?" And I said, I really think I could." So anyway, it worked out. We actually had it here in the Orlando area, and it was just a huge thrill to get back in. But, I had to start working all over again. There's a guy named Alex Putro. He wrestled for WWE as the Pug. I don't know if you remember that, but he had a gym here in the Orlando area, and I would go over there every week, and get in the ring with these 22, 23-year-old kids. So and all that stuff that Malenko taught me, it started coming back, and I didn't want to embarrass myself when I got into the ring, but it worked out. Everything worked out, and it was a great, great time. And, got thousands and thousands of views on the internet. So I was thrilled with it.
Yeah, it seems to be very exciting, when you're able to make such a comeback like that, for
Yeah,
after being gone for so many years, you
yeah,
get people, I'm sure, that remembered you from your time in the wrestling business. So that had to have been an amazing moment.
yeah, yeah. It was super, man. It was really super. How did you become a wrestling fan?
So I was dating back to probably about 4 or 5 years old. It was like a father-son bonding experience. I just happened to watch one night. The Rock was on, and just from there, it was history. So,
Yeah.
gone to several shows and WrestleManias and
Wow.
SummerSlams, and
Yeah.
gotten to experience so many cool moments. Met a lot of people in the business.
Can I tell you my rock story?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. It was 1993, I think it was. I was doing a benefit. It was this benefit. I hadn't wrestled, I got out of wrestling in 1988. And so anyway, this guy that I was going to work against on the show said, I'm not working against you until I see what you can do because you've been out for a while. So he found an independent show over in Tampa, and he said, "We'll get in the ring over there and see what kind of shape you're in." So I drove over, and we're in the dressing room, and in walked Rocky Johnson, who I'd worked against, Rocky, his dad, and Dwayne. And Dwayne still had hair, he wasn't bald. And they came in, and I was talking to Dwayne. I said, "Hey, he just, I think, graduated from University of Miami, and where he played football." I said, "What are you going to do, man? You're going to play football?" He said, "No, I'm going to wrestle like my dad." And I said, "Oh, you're crazy, man. You're crazy." I said, "Think of all the money you could make playing football." I'm going to wrestle like my dad." And I said, "I can't believe you're that crazy." Well, the next year he went to the WWE and he made $6 million and he wrote a best-selling book. So I tell everybody it's a great thing that Dwayne did not listen to my advice.
Well, look at the career that he's been able to have in
So,
and outside of wrestling,
yeah,
and it just goes to show, like, if you just put your mind to something, you can achieve so many different things and so many different
yeah,
avenues.
yep.
Um, when you started in the business,
Mhm.
uh, talk to me about like the first few matches that you had. Were you scared? Were you nervous? How did you overcome those butterflies?
I was nervous. The first match I had was with the grappler. Matter of fact, I saw him at Cauliflower Alley a few years ago. I went over and I took my picture and showed it to him. I said, "You remember being in the ring with this guy?" And oh, of course, I was very nervous. And I think I broke my nose about 1 minute into the match. And I lost all nervousness after that. Uh, and I got, I had a great match with him, finished it. But I was never nervous again getting into the ring. I was excited about getting into the ring, and I couldn't wait to get into the ring. Did I have some butterflies? Yeah, I had butterflies, but I didn't have the nerves that I had in that first match.
Yeah, it's like once you've done it the first time, you feel
Yeah,
much better about it and you start getting that confidence boosted and you start
yeah,
feeling more comfortable. So getting the chance to go back
yeah,
and step in the ring and have a match, um,
yeah,
I'd imagine over time it was like you could do it in your sleep.
yeah. Well, the better the guy you're working against, the better your match is going to be. And so you would get excited when you were wrestling against certain people because you knew exactly what kind of a job they did in the ring, and you knew it was going to be a good match because of who you were working against. So it gave you a lot of things to look forward to.
Well, who would you say have been some of the people that you've enjoyed stepping in the ring with over the years?
Um, I had the opportunity to work against Mark Calloway, the Undertaker. I wrestled him before he was the Undertaker. He wasn't he wasn't working for WWE. This was in Texas. Matter of fact, I have a picture of that night. That was before the tattoos and long hair. He actually looked a little like Howdy Doody from here up. Um, but the guy's 6'8", 315 pounds, and he was just great to work with. Matter of fact, I wasn't even supposed to work against him that night. I had already worked a match, but the guy that he was working against did not show up. And so they needed somebody to wrestle him. And I said, this kid's going to be a major star one day. I'd love to work against him. And so that's how that happened. That was great. I had the opportunity to work against a guy by the name of Flamboyant Eric Embry. He was with WCCW when I was in Texas. He was the world junior heavyweight champion. He was just a real class guy to work with. I've worked with the Freebirds. I've worked with Iceman King Parsons. Got a nice concussion from Bruiser Brody. So I had the opportunity to work against some great guys.
When you know that you are working with the people that you're comfortable around and you've been in the ring with them for so long, it's like a night off.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. There's, some people you don't have as good of memories. When Bruiser Brody kicked you in the head, he kicked you in the head. So I have a good friend who passed away, Solomon Grundy. I don't know if you remember Solomon Grundy. He was 465 pounds, unbelievable in the ring. I mean, 465 pounds, he could do a drop kick and hit you right in the chest. He did bumps off the ropes. He became a superstar in Mexico. But we talked about being in the ring with Bruiser Brody because he got kicked in the head too. And he don't even know how he got home that night, So
crazy.
Yep.
Now, talk to me about what made you decide to kind of step away for a while. I know you'd mentioned
the world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
You went back recently, had a match years later, but what made you decide to leave the wrestling business?
Well, I felt the call into the ministry when I was in college, and I was following that calling. And I tell people, I say, wrestling was my dream, but ministry was my calling. And so, I started wrestling in 1978. And then I worked here in Florida in the southeastern United States. And then God would not let me go. And I kept feeling that I'm not doing what I should be doing. And so we sold our home and I went to Fort Worth, Texas, so that I could finish my seminary career. And we went there in 1985. And so my last 3 years in wrestling were in Texas, where I got to work for WCCW and Wild West Wrestling and a lot of independent shows out there. And so I graduated from seminary in May of 1988, and then we came back to Florida. And so I walked away really at the height of my career, 1985, when I was 31 years old, I think I was. So I was just getting started, really.
That's pretty young to be leaving wrestling.
Yeah, it was. But, I don't regret doing it at all because, I've done what God called me to do. Plus, I have gotten the opportunity to stay connected to wrestling because you make a lot of friends. I get to go do, autograph signings and book signings and things like that. And so you go to one of those events, and the last one I went to, the Honky Tonk Man is right across from me. I've got, Tony Atlas over here, Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man over here. Oh my goodness, everybody was there. I'm trying to think of everybody that was there. So, you still get to see a lot of guys. You get to still get to talk to wrestling fans and, get to sign books and take pictures. And so even though I've been out of wrestling, I've still been a part of wrestling.
Well, it's kind of nice whenever somebody comes up to you that grew up watching you for all these years and to see them. I mean, that has to feel pretty special, you know?
Yeah, I was never a star, like, some of the guys that you see today. But you still have those people that remember you, and it really thrills you when they, come by and say hey to you and want a picture with you or buy one of your books or whatever. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Did it ever Did you ever think about wanting to have a run in WWF or WCW before you decided I want to pursue this other thing?
You know, I um I got to tell you, in my day, whenever I started, you had the 26 territories all over the United States. Florida was a territory, Georgia, the Carolinas, Texas had three territories. Um, and then when Vince McMahon took over the WWF, he is an unbelievable marketing genius. And so he turned, a fledgling little territory, the WWF, into a multi-billion-dollar organization that shut everybody down. He shut everybody down, and the only one working, was WCW, and then he eventually shut them down. So I just, I would love to have had that opportunity to do that, but the way Vince was doing things, I don't think I would have fit in very well in his organization. I don't think he would have found me appealing to work with.
You had such an incredible career, getting out of the business at 31, but making those contacts. Do you keep up at all with the current product today? I mean, you'd mentioned earlier you still see people occasionally.
You know, uh, Jeff Jarrett is a friend, and of course, Jeff Jarrett is working with AEW. Um, and they don't come to Florida that often, to be honest. But it was one of the first times they were in Florida, and they were over in Tampa. And I sent Jeff a text, and I said, "Hey, you're not that far from me. Would you mind if I came over?" And he said, "No, I'd love to see you again. Come on over." So I went over, and I knew, in the background, you've got Dustin Rhodes there. The Big Show was there. Got to see Dean Malenko again. I got to see Chris Jericho. But besides that, I didn't know any of the other guys. I didn't know anybody. I don't watch the WWE, so I don't. Matter of fact, my wife and I were in a restaurant a couple of years ago, and I see this big guy, and I hear him talking wrestling and stuff. And so we were paying our bill about the same time, and I said, "Hey, man, are you in wrestling?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, I'm working with the WWE." And "What's your name?" Is it Braun Strowman or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Braun Strowman.
Yeah, yeah, big guy. So, here's a guy in my own backyard, and I didn't even know who he was. So
It's
and
definitely changed. And I think what I think is so cool though is like you have different alternatives and different styles. Like if you're not a fan of this, there's something else, and
yeah,
it's just like there's different products out there. And I think professional wrestling is at an all-time high right now in terms
yeah.
of accessibility and where you can find it. So there's
And
so
here's
much
another
out
thing.
there.
Yeah, here's another thing. In my day, if you were an independent wrestler, you were not welcome. I mean, it was really kayfabe was in full force, and they just didn't care for independence. Today, there are literally hundreds of independent organizations all over the United States. And so you can go just about any city and you can find, some group, the professional wrestling group there. And it's just incredible how things have changed drastically. And of course, all those guys, they have the dream of making it to the big show one day. And,
Yeah.
you know, great things happen to those who train. So
I
you never
def
know.
I definitely think the future is independent wrestling because I feel like there's just so much opportunity out there, and you just never know when that person that you might see at a show could end up with one of the big companies.
Yep.
So
Yep. That's true.
it's definitely thriving.
I-
I want to switch gears now and talk about your time outside of the business. You know, you've been very involved with your church and have done incredible work in your community. Let's talk about that and some of the things that you have done as far as giving back is concerned.
Well, excuse me, I was at my second church back in the 90s, and I had a young lady in my church who was dying from cancer, and they were going all over the country to try to get treatment for her, running up some unbelievable bills, and it just and people in the church were so kind. People would give them $50 or $100 or whatever they could give them just to try to help them. And one night we had a fellowship at our church, and I just took the microphone and I said, folks, I said, you know what I did before I became a pastor. And I said, I still have friends in the business, and we're doing a lot to help Diane. I said, but I think I can do something that can help them a lot more. And so I'm going to put together a wrestling event, and we're going to give all the money to Wayne and Diane to help them with their bills. I'm not asking for your permission. I said, I'm just asking for your understanding. And the people were very supportive. And so, I got on the phone, and I got with Dory Funk Jr. Dory Funk Jr. worked that show. I had Ravishing Rick Rude. Matter of fact, he worked against Dory. I had Bugsy McGraw. I had the Barbarian. I had uh, Dick Slater. I had some unbelievable guys on that show. And it was exciting for me because I had to get back in shape. And then I got to get back into the ring again. And it just made it all that much, more wonderful. But even before that, when I was at my first church, the local football team, uh, it was a small town, very small town, and they needed money, and so I talked to their coach. I said, "Hey, man, I could do a wrestling event and raise money for you." And so we did that. We started with that, and had some great guys on that show. Got to get back into the ring. And then I did another one there's a home for special needs kids that was close to my church. It was called the Key Training Center. And so I talked to the guy who ran that, and we did an event and raised money to give to the Key Training Center. Matter of fact, for that one, I actually gave them my mask so that I said, I'll probably never wrestle again. So anyway, they silent auctioned my mask. I had some other memorabilia that I put in there so that they could sell it and raise money. And so, when I got opportunities to do things to give back, but it was kind of great for me too because I got to get back into the ring.
Well, it's always the best part, being able to
Yeah,
entertain fans and entertain crowds, and you've had
yeah,
so much experience with doing that for so many years.
yeah.
Uh, was there a particular event or moment for you that was very heartwarming in terms of helping out and any causes that you've been very passionate about helping out with over the years?
Yeah, when you take that money and you give it to a family that's hurting, and you see the expression on their face, and you see the hope that it puts back in their eyes, uh, it just makes it all the more worthwhile. And you just say, if I had the ability, I'd do it 1,000 times over for you. So it just makes it worth it when you see them.
Yeah, you just never know what people are going through and the struggles that they're facing, and so they definitely need something to take their mind off of whatever their issues that they're facing and whatever problems that they're having. They definitely need to have something to kind of distract them, not think about it. They want to be able to enjoy the moment, be able to enjoy something that they are looking forward to, something that can take their mind off of what they're going through. So, kudos to you for being able to do that and create an event and a platform that will help somebody out with whatever they're needing.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Now, I do want to talk about. I also want to talk about your novel and your film that you got to be involved with about your life story, The Masked Saint. It also stars the movie happened to have featured the late great Roddy Piper.
You're right.
What made you decide to write the movie, the novel? How did you get involved with this endeavor?
Well, I when I went to my first church, I started having episode after episode that I handled more as a professional wrestler than I handled as a pastor. The very first one was a lady who was being abused by her husband. So I had all of these episodes and episodes where I handled things more as a professional wrestler than as a pastor. And I was just talking to my wife. I said, this would make a good book. And so I didn't look at myself as a writer. And so I tried to find a ghost writer. I couldn't find one. So ultimately, one Saturday, I sat down and I started writing. I showed it to my wife and she said, "That's great. Keep going." So the book was easy to write because, each chapter is an event that actually happened in my life. And so I wrote the book. There's another star in this book. Her name is Miss Edna. She was a lady from my childhood that I also learned a lot about, who is played by Diane Carroll in the movie. And so the book came out, and I got a call from a movie producer here in Orlando, and I went and talked to him. He kept me on the hook for about a year, and it fell through. And then I talked to another person, and that fell through. And so I was really getting frustrated. And I was on my way to the gym one morning in February of 2013, and I got a call, and it was a movie producer in Canada. And he said, "Has anybody done anything with your book?" And I said, "No." I kind of rolled my eyes when I said it. "No." And he said, "Well, I think we're interested." And I said, "Okay, thank you." And I just, I flipped it off and went on to the gym. And so, wouldn't you know it, I was driving to the gym again. That same guy called. He said, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "Yep." I said, "I'm driving." And he said, "Well, you might want to pull over." And I pulled over. He said, "Hey, we're going to make your book into a movie." And I was like dumbfounded. They had planned to shoot the movie in July, but they didn't finish the script until October. So the movie was filmed in November of 2013. I had not seen Roddy Piper in 25 years, and it was a thrill to see him again. And, he actually remembered me, which was great. And it was just an incredible event to be on the set when they were filming the movie. And of course, the movie is still on now. I mean, you can, go on Prime Video. The movie is on Prime. It's on Tubi. It's on PureFlix. It's on, video on demand. I mean, you can watch it easily. You can buy the movie. So it's incredible that January will be 10 years since the movie came out. And yet it is still being played. And there's very few weeks that go by that I don't get an email message or a message from somebody on Facebook saying, I saw the movie and it changed my life, and I just want to thank you. And I mean, it's incredible that it's still hanging around.
Yeah, I mean, it's rewarding that you're able to enjoy, all this feedback and public acclaim for the hard work that you have been involved with for the movie and everything that's been able to come out since 12 years after the movie came out. What do you feel like is the impact of The Masked Saint, and how you feel it's been received?
Well, I think everybody likes a second chance. And I often say that, the God that I serve is the God of a second chance. And have you ever messed up in your life?
We all have.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people out there that just messed up their lives in some way. And I think the message of the Masked Saint is the message of a second chance. So if you have messed up, that's not the end of the road. Failure is never final until you quit. And so I think that's the message that people are still getting. And everybody loves an underdog, and the Masked Saint was an underdog.
Yeah, it's just an inspirational movie and inspirational story, and something we can all take from it. It's never too late to start over and begin anew, in a sense. It's never too late.
Nope, never too late. Keep going.
That's what we all need to do.
Yeah.
Chris, I want to say thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube.
Yep.
Where can people find out more about you? Anything involving the movie? Feel free to plug.
Yep. You can go to themaskedsaint.com. That's THE, and it's MASKED Saint.com, themaskedsaint.com. My contact information is on there. People reach out to me. I always respond. So I love hearing from people. If you want an autograph book, you can do that on the website. You can contact me. I'm on Facebook. If you go to Chris Whaley, ChrisWhaley, you can find me on Facebook. I'm on X, Instagram. You can find me if you look for me.
All right.
And thank you for doing that. I appreciate you asking about that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks so much again, and you're more than welcome to come back.
All right. Thank you, man. God bless you.
Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.